Hello everyone. So today we will be looking at the process of hematopoiesis in detail. So before we begin with what hematopoiesis actually is, we should know about the primary types of stem cells which are present. So with this diagram, I will try to explain to you how the process of stem cell differentiation takes place. So we begin with the first step of stem cell, which is the totipotent stem cell. These cells are also known as omnipotent cells. So these are the most powerful type of stem cells which are present in the human body. This is because they have a very high potency, because of which they have the ability to form any type of cell that you can think of, and so they can form an entire individual on their own. These kinds of cells are generally present in the early morula and the zygote. So the zygote, if you remember, the zygote is produced after fertilization takes place. So after your fertilization has taken place, your zygote has formed. 4-5 days after that, this totipotent cell will further differentiate to form a second type of stem cell, which is known as the pluripotent stem cells. So these kind of stem cells, there are two well-known examples for them. One is the embryonic stem cell in the very early stages. This is a natural type of cell, and then we have a man-made type of pluripotent cell known as induced pluripotent stem cell. It's also referred to as IPS. So these IPS, they can be reprogrammed to function similar to embryonic stem cells. Now these pluripotent stem cells, they have two very important properties. First is they will undergo self renewal. So why they have to undergo self renewal is because they need to maintain their own population. So one stem cell will continuously divide, and in this way its entire population is maintained. And the second property it has is that it can undergo differentiation in order to produce the three layers, your three germ cell layers which are there. So that is ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, and it also produces germ cells. So now these pluripotent cells, they will differentiate and they will form the third type of stem cell, which is the multipotent stem cells. Now, compared to the previous two types of stem cells that we have just seen, multipotent cells have a very low potency. So they can only differentiate into very specific types of cells, such as muscle cell, blood cell, neuronal cell, etc. You can see over here. Only these very specific types of cells it can differentiate into, and its fate of differentiation is dependent upon a lot of factors. They could be biological in nature or they could be mechanical as well. So, and multipotent stem cells, they will include mesenchymal stem cells, hematopoietic stem cells, and unipotent stem cells. So our primary focus for today will be solely on hematopoietic stem cells. So now we will be looking at the important properties of hematopoietic stem cells. First is that they are very rare compared to all the other cells present in your body. These are a type of oligopotent stem cell. Now, oligopotent is nothing but a subtype of multipotent stem cell, and they function very similar to multipotent stem cell. However, they have a more restricted differentiation capacity. In the upcoming slides, we will see exactly what this means. Hematopoietic stem cells are present in bone marrow and peripheral blood. This is originating from the mesoderm. Now, peripheral blood is nothing but your whole blood, which contains your RBCs, WBCs, and platelets. Uh, an important property it has is that it can undergo self renewal to maintain its own population, and it forms many different blood cells by a process known as hematopoiesis. Now in this picture, you can see the three ways in which hematopoietic stem cells are being formed. So the first way is by the embryonic mesoderm, which is the most typical way. The second way is that your hematopoietic stem cell, they are generally differentiating to form different blood cells. However, recently they have found out that your blood cell, they can also undergo de-differentiation to form the hematopoietic stem cell again. So this is a reversible process. And the third way is that you can reprogram any non-hematopoietic stem cell to form a hematopoietic stem cell. Okay, so now we will be looking at how the condition is having an impact on the differentiation capacity of the hematopoietic stem cells. So these cells are quiescent, which means that they are inactive or dormant, and they remain undifferentiated in the bone marrow. But if they are induced to undergo differentiation, they will produce some daughter cells which retain the primary hematopoietic stem cell properties of self renewal and differentiation, and the other cells which are there will differentiate to form many progenitor cells which no longer have those self renewal properties. But if your body is under attack by a pathogen or it is undergoing chemotherapy, then your immune system is very weak and it is under a lot of pressure. So now what these stem cells will do is they will have a greater proliferation capacity. So now more blood cells are being produced, which will help your immune system in restoring its normal function. Now we will be looking at an experiment which was done to prove the existence of the hematopoietic stem cells. So in the first scenario, what they did was they gave an irradiation treatment to a live mouse, and because of this irradiation, its immune system was completely destroyed, and then it died. So what they had done here is they had not transferred any hematopoietic stem cells, because of which there was no chance of the immune system getting restored. Now in the second scenario, again an irradiation treatment was given, but now they saw that the mouse actually survived. So what they did different over here is they transferred 10 raised to 4 to 10 raised to 8 hematopoietic stem cells into this mouse, which allowed its immune system to be completely restored, and this is why the mouse survived. Now another point that they noticed is that 10 raised to 4 to 10 raised to 8 hematopoietic stem cells which they transferred was actually much lesser than the normal level in the mouse, which is normally there. That's about 3 into 10 raised to 8. So this is proving that hematopoietic stem cells, they have a very high self renewal. So even if they are present at a level lower than normal, it is okay and it is enough for the immune system to function. Now we'll be talking about how the process of hematopoiesis takes place. Let's go step by step. So it begins with the hematopoietic stem cell. This is self-renewing in nature, so it will continue to self-replicate and maintain its own population. Also, it will differentiate into two kinds of progenitor cells. First is the myeloid progenitor. Let's start with this. So this myeloid progenitor, it is present in the bone marrow. This will further differentiate into a granulocyte monocyte progenitor, eosinophil progenitor, basophil progenitor, megakaryocyte, erythroid progenitor. So these purple cells you see, they are all present in the bone marrow along with your progenitors and your hematopoietic stem cells. Now these progenitors, they will differentiate one last time into more cells. So let's see how this works. So the granulocyte monocyte progenitor will produce monocyte and neutrophil. The eosinophil progenitor will produce eosinophil. Basophil progenitor will produce basophil. Megakaryocyte will produce platelets, and erythroid progenitor will produce erythrocyte, which is nothing but your RBCs. These cells which are there, all these cells in brown, they will be present in the peripheral tissue. Now let's take a look at the second type of progenitor, which is the lymphoid progenitor present in the bone marrow. This lymphoid progenitor will give rise to two kinds of progenitor. First is the T cell progenitor, then there's the B cell progenitor. So this B cell progenitor will produce B cells or your plasma cells in the peripheral tissue. However, the T cell progenitor is slightly different. This T cell progenitor will undergo differentiation as well as maturation in an organ known as thymus. So this T cell progenitor will give rise to two kinds of T cells. First is the helper T cell and then we have the cytotoxic T cell. Also, all these cells are eventually transported to the peripheral tissue. So your lymphoid progenitor is eventually giving rise to natural killer, helper T cell, cytotoxic T cell, B cell and dendritic cells overall. Now let's look at the two staining methods for blood cells. First we have the hematoxylin and eosin staining. The first dye is the hematoxylin dye, which is a basic dye. Since it is basic in nature, it has a tendency to target an acidic component. The acidic component in this case is the nucleus. So why nucleus is acidic? It is because of the presence of the negatively charged phosphate backbone in DNA, giving the nucleus an overall negative charge and thus making it acidic. Then we have the eosin dye, which is acidic in nature. So this would target basic amino acids in cytoplasm like lysine and arginine that have positive side chains at a neutral pH. Now in this picture over here, you can see that the blue staining is because of hematoxylin binding to nucleus and the pink staining in places is because of eosin binding to these lysine and arginine basic amino acids in cytoplasm. The second type of staining is the Romanowsky staining. Again over here we have a basic dye. In this case it is the azure B. It would bind to nucleus and stain it blue or violet. We have an acidic dye which is eosin Y. It would bind to basic groups like hemoglobin and stain them reddish orange. There are many derivatives of this method. This is the Wright-Giemsa stain, Leishman stain, Jenner stain. And you can see over here, it is generally used to differentiate between the types of white blood cells which are there. So the nucleus has been stained blue or violet and the surrounding hemoglobin has been stained as reddish orange. Now let's have a short recap of what we saw today. We looked at the different types of stem cells which are majorly present. First was the totipotent stem cell which has the highest potency. Then there was pluripotent and then there was multipotent which comparatively has the least potency, and this is because it has a very restrictive differentiation capacity. Then we looked at the different properties of hematopoietic stem cells. We saw an experimental setup which was done to prove the existence of hematopoietic stem cells. We discussed in detail the process of hematopoiesis, and then we finally looked at the two types of staining methods for blood cells, which is hematoxylin and eosin staining and Romanowsky staining. I have listed down a few references over here. You could have a look at them if you are interested in learning more about the topic. That's it from my side. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.